Ria Narang thought she could have it all, but her secret engagements to Arav Sethi and Liam Durnell in Australia spiraled out of control, ending in a shocking murder that no one saw coming. Ria Narang arrived in Melbourne with a sense of excitement mixed with nervous curiosity. At 24, she had stepped onto foreign soil for the first time, hoping this journey would transform her entire future. Her scholarship in forensic accounting felt like a golden ticket out of the financial instability her family lived with in Pune. She carried responsibilities heavier than her luggage, knowing her parents had pinned all their hopes on her success. Melbourne felt larger, colder, and far more demanding than she imagined, yet she forced herself to adjust quickly, learning train routes, juggling part-time shifts at a cafe, and managing long nights of coursework. Her shared house in Footscray wasn't luxurious, but she appreciated having a small room she could call her own. She spent evenings studying at her desk beside a window overlooking a quiet street lit by orange lamps. Neighbors rarely spoke, and her housemates mostly kept to themselves, leaving her free to focus on her goals. Despite this, loneliness crept into her life in small, persistent waves. She hid it well, presenting herself as confident and disciplined to classmates who often admired her work ethic. What they didn't see was the constant pressure she felt to maintain perfect grades while earning enough to survive. Every bill reminded her of what failure could mean for her family. She wanted stability so badly that she sometimes imagined shortcuts to reach it faster. These thoughts stayed buried under her determination, but they lingered like shadows she pretended not to notice. Melbourne offered opportunities, but it also exposed the fragile balance she lived with each day. Ria believed she could handle anything as long as she stayed focused, unaware that her pursuit of security would soon lead her into choices that changed everything. Arav Sethi entered Ria's life during a university workshop that gathered students from different programs to collaborate on financial case studies. He was confident, polished, and noticeably wealthy, the kind of person who seemed to glide through life without worry. As the son of a respected Indian-Australian businessman, Arav carried an aura of security that immediately drew Ria's attention. She noticed the way he dressed, the car he arrived in, and the effortless authority he displayed when presenting ideas. Arav was equally impressed by her sharp focus and calm nature, sensing a depth in her that he rarely encountered. Over the next few weeks, he began inviting her to small academic meetups and study groups, always finding subtle ways to spend more time around her. Ria, already stressed by her growing financial responsibilities, felt comforted by his stability. The contrast between her own struggles and his privileged world grew more tempting with each interaction. His interest in her intensified quickly, leading him to view her not just as a brilliant student but as someone he hoped to build a future with. Ria recognized the signs and understood what accepting his affection could mean for her future security. When Arav expressed his wish for a long-term commitment, she accepted without hesitation. The engagement was quiet, unannounced, and carefully hidden. She convinced Arav that she wanted to keep it private until she felt settled, but the real reason lay in her fear of judgment and her awareness that she was choosing stability over genuine emotion. As their connection grew more formal, Ria believed she had found the solution to her financial worries, never imagining that this secret decision would become the first step into a dangerous web she couldn't escape. Liam Durnell lived in the same shared house as Ria, moving through life with a quiet awkwardness that made him nearly invisible to most people. An engineering student with few friends, he spent most of his time in his room surrounded by unfinished projects and old textbooks. Ria's occasional kindness toward him felt like sunlight in an otherwise dim existence, and he began to admire the steadiness she carried even on stressful days. He noticed small things about her, how she organized her notes, how she returned from late shifts with tired eyes, how she stayed polite even when exhausted. Over time, this gentle admiration grew into a silent dependence. Liam started scheduling his routine around moments when he knew she would be home, hoping to catch even a brief interaction. As Ria became more involved with Arav, her time at the house decreased, leaving Liam confused and hurt in ways he couldn't understand. Her absence made him restless, and he convinced himself that she was the only person who made his life feel normal. When she occasionally checked on him or asked about his day, Liam interpreted these gestures as meaningful signs, believing she cared about him more deeply than she realized. The more emotionally attached he became, the more obsessed he grew, creating fantasies of a life where she relied on him as much as he relied on her. Rhea sensed his increasing attachment but assumed it was harmless and temporary, unaware that Liam had crossed a psychological line. In her mind, he was simply a lonely housemate who needed compassion. In his mind, she was becoming the center of his world, someone he felt destined to protect and eventually claim as part of his future. Rhea's life began slipping into instability when her scholarship coverage changed unexpectedly, reducing the amount she received each term. At the same time, her parents in Pune faced a sudden financial setback that left them unable to send their usual support. Tuition deadlines approached with alarming speed, and Rhea realized she was far more vulnerable than she had ever admitted to herself. Her cafe job provided only enough for rent, basic groceries, and public transport, leaving nothing for university fees. Each time she checked her bank account, anxiety tightened around her like a rope. She tried picking up extra shifts, but her grades began to decline from exhaustion, threatening the very scholarship she depended on. Desperation made her view every person and opportunity differently. Arav offered emotional support and frequently hinted that he would take care of everything once they married, but marriage couldn't fix bills due immediately. She needed money sooner, and she needed it quietly. This pressure pushed her closer to Liam, who lived in a world far removed from her chaos. He received a steady government allowance and had savings from a previous internship, funds he rarely touched. Rhea noticed how eagerly he listened to her, how his entire mood shifted when she spoke to him, and how quickly he responded to even the smallest request. She never directly asked him for help, yet she began acting more warmly, allowing him to believe they shared a deeper bond. The subtle encouragement worked. Liam grew even more attached, offering support in ways she hadn't expected. Rhea told herself she was only accepting temporary assistance, a harmless survival tactic, but beneath that reasoning lay a growing fear that she was crossing lines she could never uncross. Liam's emotional world shifted the moment he believed Rhea cared for him in a special way. Her increased warmth, small smiles, and gentle attention convinced him that their bond had deepened into something real. When he bought her an expensive necklace using a large portion of his savings, Rhea hesitated at first, but the weight of her financial problems pushed her to accept it. The gesture strengthened Liam's belief that they were meant to share a future together. As his feelings intensified, he began imagining a life beyond the shared house, one where they built routines, careers, and stability side by side. Rhea noticed the depth of his devotion and recognized the opportunity hidden within it. She didn't push him away. Instead, she allowed his emotions to flourish, letting him interpret her gratitude as affection. One quiet evening, overwhelmed by hope and convinced that destiny had led them together, Liam presented her with a simple engagement ring. The offer caught her off guard, but she accepted it, driven not by love but by the financial safety she believed he could provide. She assured herself she could manage both commitments if she stayed careful and kept each part of her life separate. For a while, her plan seemed to work. She wore Arav's ring during outings with him and kept Liam's hidden in a small box buried inside her luggage. She crafted excuses, arranged schedules, and lived with the constant risk of being discovered. Rhea believed she was balancing everything skillfully, but her double life grew heavier with every passing day, silently tightening around her like a trap waiting to spring. She had convinced herself that she could maintain control, unaware that she had already stepped far beyond the point of return. A single notification became the thread that started to unravel Rhea's carefully constructed double life. One afternoon, while Arav waited for her phone to finish charging, the screen lit up with a bank alert showing a recent deposit from Liam Durnall. The unusual transaction caught his attention instantly. Rhea had always claimed she managed her finances independently, yet here was evidence of unexplained money entering her account. Arav felt an uneasy shift in his gut, a feeling that something important was being hidden from him. He didn't confront her immediately. Instead, he began watching her behavior more closely. He noticed how often she checked her phone, how restless she became when leaving the house, and how vague her explanations sounded when discussing her schedule. His confusion quickly evolved into suspicion, and he started tracing small inconsistencies he previously ignored. Meanwhile, Liam sensed changes on his side as well. Rhea appeared tense, distant, and hurried in their interactions. She no longer lingered near the kitchen or paused to talk the way she once did. Liam interpreted this as fear that she was losing him or hiding emotional stress. He grew anxious and more alert to her movements, convinced that something or someone was influencing her. Without either man knowing about the other, both began observing her at the same time, creating invisible pressure that followed her everywhere. Rhea tried maintaining calm, but the walls around her secret commitments tightened. The financial help she had accepted now stood out like a burning mark, and the smallest misstep threatened to expose everything. She didn't realize that one message, one simple bank alert, had already set both men on paths that would collide violently, dragging her deeper into danger than she ever intended to go. Ariv's uneasiness turned into determination the moment he discovered a small velvet pouch inside Rhea's backpack while helping her search for a misplaced charger. Inside it lay a delicate engagement ring he had never seen before. The initials engraved on the inner band, LD, crashed through him like cold water. The realization hit instantly. Someone else had proposed to her. Someone close enough for her to keep the ring hidden. Ariv's mind raced through every possibility until one name rose above the rest, Liam Durnall, the quiet housemate he had heard her mention only in passing. He searched the name online and found a profile connected to the same shared address she lived in. Shock hardened into anger. He needed to see the situation for himself, not through assumptions but through evidence. Hours later, Ariv appeared unannounced at the shared house, pretending he had arrived to pick up something for Rhea. Liam, startled but polite, let him inside. The moment Liam's door opened, Ariv's eyes caught a jarring sight, a private wall covered with carefully arranged photos of Rhea. Some were candid shots taken around the house, others from university events, each pinned with almost obsessive precision. The collection revealed months of silent fixation. He also noticed the empty necklace box Liam had kept, along with receipts for expensive gifts. The room felt suffocating, filled with an intensity that made Ariv step back in alarm. Without saying a word, Ariv left the house, his chest tight with shock and betrayal. He couldn't decide who had hurt him more, Liam, with his unsettling obsession, or Rhea, with her hidden engagement to another man. The discovery didn't bring clarity. It only deepened the confusion and rage building inside him. And as he walked away from the house, he carried with him the certainty that everything was about to collapse in a way none of them could control. That evening, Rhea returned home, unaware that both men were already waiting for her in the small shared house. The air was thick with tension, heavy and suffocating, as if the walls themselves were holding their collective anger. Ariv confronted Liam first, revealing the engagement ring and the undeniable proof of a second commitment. Liam's initial shock quickly turned into defensiveness. He displayed his own evidence, the expensive gifts, the photos, and the months of attention he had showered on Rhea. The room seemed to shrink around them, every object and shadow amplifying the intensity of the confrontation. Rhea felt the weight of her carefully constructed secrets crashing down, her heart pounding as she realized that her attempts to control both relationships had failed entirely. Each man, believing he had been manipulated, directed their frustration toward her, leaving her paralyzed with fear. The calm she had maintained for months dissolved into desperation. The energy in the room shifted from heated argument to physical tension, small movements becoming sharp and unpredictable. Rhea tried to think quickly, attempting to de-escalate the situation, but her presence alone fueled the escalating emotions of both men. In that confined space, past decisions, hidden lies, and unspoken obsessions collided. What had begun as a quiet deception now spiraled uncontrollably, and Rhea realized that the consequences of her double life were far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. In that moment, the house was no longer a safe place, it had become the stage for a tragedy that was about to unfold, leaving no room for negotiation or escape. The struggle began almost without warning, erupting into chaos as tension finally erupted into violence. Furniture toppled under the force of thrown objects, and the small living room became a hazardous battlefield. Ria attempted to slip past them, heart racing, desperate to escape the storm she had created. In the frenzy, Liam grabbed a heavy metal lamp, swinging it blindly in a panic-driven reflex. The intended target was unclear, the motion fueled by fear, anger, and obsession. The lamp struck Ria instead of Arav, the impact sudden and devastating. She collapsed instantly, her body lifeless on the cold floor. Silence fell for a brief, horrifying moment, broken only by the ragged breathing of the two men staring in disbelief at what had just happened. Shock paralyzed Liam, the reality of his actions hit him with crushing force. Arav, equally stunned, realized the horror of the situation, his anger replaced by dread and guilt. Fear consumed him as he understood that the violence had spiraled beyond control, leaving death in its wake. Without thinking, Arav fled the house, disappearing into the night, leaving Liam alone with the consequences of a moment he could never undo. Panic overtook him, his mind racing for answers, for justification, for a way to undo the irreversible. In that instant, the carefully hidden secrets, the double engagements, and the manipulations that had led to this night crystallized into a single, horrifying reality. Ria Narang was gone, and both men would be forever trapped in the aftermath of her death. The investigation that followed unraveled the shocking truth behind Ria Narang's double life. Police discovered the hidden engagements, the financial struggles, and the emotional manipulations that had led to a deadly confrontation. Evidence from the house, including Liam's photographs, receipts for gifts, and the engagement rings, painted a clear picture of obsession, secrecy, and desperation. Arav was arrested hours later for fleeing the scene, facing charges related to his presence and failure to intervene, while Liam was charged with murder, the act that had ended Ria's life. The case drew attention in both Australia and India, sparking heated debates about the pressures faced by international students, the vulnerabilities of emotional dependence, and the dangers of secrecy in relationships. Friends, classmates, and the wider public struggled to comprehend how a student so intelligent and seemingly composed could be caught in such a destructive web. In court, the story of Ria's hidden engagements, her careful management of two men, and the fatal outcome captivated the world. Her death became a grim cautionary tale about the fragile boundary between survival and deceit, ambition and manipulation, trust and obsession. Headlines splashed across media outlets carried her name and image, but they could not capture the complexity of the life she led or the desperation that drove her choices. Ria's dreams of building a secure and stable future were extinguished in a single night, leaving behind sorrow, regret, and endless questions. In the end, the tragedy served as a stark reminder that secrets, when entwined with fear and desire, can spiral beyond control, destroying lives in ways no one could have predicted.